This is the Peter Greenwood Show, and I am backstage. When I say backstage, it's more like backstage, up some stairs, up another flight of stairs, and I'm sitting next to a lady to my left. Could you tell me your name and what you do, please?
I am Lyra. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I really badly dance around the stage.
Well, I really badly dance around everywhere, so we have that in common.
Amazing. You can be in the Weird Club with me, so.
Oh, fantastic. How are you today? You well?
I'm so good. A little bit hoarse, but ready to rock the stage tonight. I'm very, very excited about the show.
What tour date number is this for you?
This is actually only 2.
Oh, it's 2?
So this is only tour date number 2.
Right.
Just come off the back of 22 dates in Ireland, which was a marathon and a half. I'm not going to lie, by the end of it, I was like, I have no legs, my hamstrings are pulled, and my voice is gone. So this is number 2, so I'm full of energy, and I can't wait for the rest of the tour.
That sounds good, though.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Do you still enjoy touring? Because you've been doing music a little while now.
I love touring. Touring is actually my favourite part of the music industry, and being on stage, performing, seeing people's like eyeballs, because you know with COVID it was all through a laptop, which I absolutely hated. So it's my favourite part. It's the real human connection. It really gets me. So I love it. And people get to know me too, because there's only so much you can tell people through social media and, you know, Spotify and YouTube and stuff like that. So actually to get to see me in the flesh and like have a chat is so important for me.
And it must, as you said, it must be so nice as a performer coming back to music, and coming back to performing in front of audiences.
Yeah, it is, because you know, you're never going to get that experience again. And every second is different when you're on stage, and it's something that will never be relived. So it's very magical, and it's a journey, and this bit makes it the fun journey.
Let's talk a little bit about your musical origins. Do you remember the first time you started playing music, and what kind of music was it that you started with? So
I have always sang when I was younger, because my older sister loved to sing, and whatever she done I had to do. I was like, whatever Sarah's doing, I'm doing. So I was always like her little backing singer, and sometimes she'd give me the lead. I was like, thanks for that. And it was a lot of like Fleetwood Mac, the Carpenters, Mary Black, you know, that's what my mom was listening to growing up. So I suppose that's what we like fell into listening to and learning. And as well, it'd be a lot of singing at like my aunt's Christmas parties, where they're all 3 sheets to the wind, and the children would be get up like singing songs to entertain them. So it was all kind of like the old school Irish music. That
sounds really fantastic, though. And did you enjoy it? When was the first time you were like, ooh, this is touching something in me? Do you remember that moment?
I suppose I always enjoyed it all the time, because singing is kind of the only thing that I really do think that I'm good at. You know, I wasn't great at school, I'm not gonna lie. Like, my French teacher absolutely bloody hated me. I try my best. Like, come into the class, I'd be like, bonjour, and she'd be like, get into class, and I'd be like, oh God almighty. So I've always had a love for music, because it always made me feel great about myself. It always gave me that kind of pat on the back, like, you know what, you are good at something. So I've always had a soft spot for it, and I've always relished the moment where it was mine to get up on top of the mantelpiece and give a sing at the family party. So I loved it.
So how does that feeling extend to releasing your very first album, which came out on the 12th of April? Congratulations on it. It is called Lyra.
Yeah, it is.
What's it like putting out a single or an EP compared to putting out a whole album?
It's not as daunting as I thought. So putting out singles, I suppose I was more scared than putting out the album, because the singles were like, will it hit? Will it not? Will people like it? Won't it? Whereas like when you're putting out a body of work, I suppose I lived with it for so long, and I was writing it for so long, and I had it at home to myself for so long. I was really excited to let her go and like come into the world and people to hear these new sides to me. And with an album, you can give people loads of different stories and almost like different elements of yourself. Like there's my first ballad that people would ever heard, and which I was excited for them to hear about. You know, there was a song in there, you know, full of synths and stuff which they hadn't heard from me before. So I was more excited about the album than anything else. I was like, you know what, I love her, so if it goes well then great, if it doesn't I'll just keep going anyway. So I was very excited.
I'd like to touch on that a little bit, because it does go into a few different genres and a few different styles. And that what am I trying to ask, was it difficult putting that much of yourself out there in different styles? Yeah,
it was, like, but I'm a very kind of honest person. I wear my heart on my sleeve, so I have to write very much about like what's happening to me in my life. That's how I write my best material. So I knew I had to dig deep in there to get my best for my album. And you know, before COVID, I was the type of girl that it was like one lane. I was very like dark, mysterious, like anthemic kind of pop, and that was my sound, and I always just wanted to keep that. And I suppose that's what I was always told, to stay in your lane. And then when everything got ripped away from me from COVID, and I realised that, you know, I mightn't come back from this as an artist, or, you know, this could happen again, I kind of decided to let my guard down and be like, I love music, I love writing songs. Why can't I dip in and out to different genres, different sounds, to express a different emotion? You know, when you're sad and when you're happy, they're not the same emotions. They don't make you feel the same way, so why should they sound the same way? And I really wanted to look into that with my music. I wanted to take it into deeper levels. Like, you know what, when I'm writing my ballads about my ex who broke my heart, I want you to feel that in the sound. When I'm singing about going out and going on the lash with my girlfriends and drinking Prosecco till it's coming out our ears, I want you to be able to get up and dance and feel like you're on that wild night out. And I suppose if I just stuck to one sound, I wouldn't have been able to get that truly across. So I suppose that's why I've really explored different areas of myself and my sound in this album.
See, I'm glad you brought that up, because the Lyra, I remember the Lyra music I used to play was kind of almost ethereal.
Yeah, it was very ethereal. It was very Enya,
yes.
very Kate Bush, which are amazing women and definitely icons of mine. And that is the way I started music. You know, Emerald was the first song I ever wrote. Mm-hmm. She's very, like, even sitting down listening to that, like, it's kind of a whirlwind of a song. I didn't follow any path. I just wanted to be whimsical. I wanted it to be magical. I wanted it to be cinematic. I wanted it to be this and that, which I loved at that point in my life. And I suppose I've from then grown up a lot as an artist and as a woman, and a lot has happened to me in my life that, you know, I need to start delving into that now.
So when it came time to put together an album, did you consciously say, these are things I want to write about and these are things I don't feel ready to touch on yet? So
when I came to the album, I'm always writing, like, all the time. Like, even like the other day, I've sketched out an idea for a song for album 2, and like album 1's only out 3 weeks now.
Yeah.
But it's, so some of these songs were written maybe like 3.5 years ago, and they've stood the test of time, that when I listen back to my catalogue of music, they always were ones that stood out, and they always were the ones that I was the truest about myself. And most of them are always the ones that is normally me and a producer, that I can really be honest. There's one other person in the room, or I start them at home on the sofa on my own, where nobody's going to be judging me if I'm turning around and begging my ex to get back at me. There's no judgment by myself in my pajamas on the couch. And then I bring them into people who I love working with, and that's kind of like how she developed. And I suppose with this being kind of a long-term album, it was just what songs really stood the test of time, as I said. So that's how I chose them.
What's so interesting there is you use the term album 2, so that's already in the work.
Oh,
that's
yeah. She's always working.
She's on the way.
She is on the way. There's a new chapter coming in my life, and I feel like as an artist, when I'm experiencing it now, I have to write about it now, because say, for example, they're like, oh, we need an album in a year's time. And if I start writing it in 8 months' time, that emotion has passed for me. And I find it really hard to tap back into something. It almost feels like I'm trying to tap back into somebody else's life. So I try and do it in the there and then. And obviously I don't pronounce my TH, I'm Ireland, so I'm like the there and then. It's the there and the then.
I like it the first way.
Oh, thanks. So I'm just starting to do it, because obviously my first album's come out. I've had a great time. I want to write about it. So I'm writing about it now because it's happening now.
So exciting. Yeah. I would like to ask a little bit, because as I've said on this show before, I am not a songwriter. I know nothing about music. If you put a gun to my head and said, write me a song, you would have to pull the trigger. That's how little I know about songwriting. So what is your songwriting process? How does it start for you? So
I suppose kind of like previously, it's the emotion, the active activity that has happened in my life. It starts with that. It always has to start with that. So like, for example, when my ex dumped me, for that next 6 months, I could only write about that because that was the emotion that was really inside me. So as corny as it sounded, it always has to start from an emotion. And then I always build that into, okay, how do I get this emotion across sonically, like through a song. So then it will take us form of like kind of what mood it's going to be, and then I just go into melodies, and then I put the lyrics on top.
So you start with melody and then work on lyrics, or
Yeah.
do you start with lyrics?
Even though when I'm making the melodies and I'm like scatting the melody, there's always a few words that come out, and they always end up being ones that stay in the song, and I don't know how that is, but it just ends up happening. So it's kind of a bit of a mix mash for me. It's not like one standard practice. Like I could be walking down the street, like for example, Queen, that's on the album, had no middle eight in it whatsoever. And I went to record Queen for the album, the new vocals, and I was going up on the train and I wrote the middle eight. And I went into the studio and I was like, I've just written a middle eight on the train here. I want to put it in for the album. That was it. It was done. So there's no rhyme and reason. Sometimes it comes to me, sometimes it doesn't.
And what's the longest and shortest time you've taken to write a song, from having the emotion to the lyrics to the melody to a finished product?
Right, this is a hard question now, because there's been songs that I've written and they will be done and vocals and everything in like an hour and a half, and that's them. They're good. But then that song still, even though it took an hour and a half to write, is never good to go for an album. She has to be reproduced, she has to be re-vocal, so that then takes it up to, could end up being another 2 days working on it. So songwriting wise, I could have something done in an hour and a half, but to a full scale, to be ready for the album, it could take anything from like 2 days to a week on one song.
So it sounds like it's a fairly intense process, but a fairly quick process.
Yeah, it is. It's quick to get them written and to get the demos done, but I suppose the long process is when you're then bringing these demos to release quality. Like you always re-listen to them. You always want to like redo things in the production. I always want to redo my vocals because I've got to know the song a bit more, which is a process in itself. So, and then you have to go through the mastering and the mixing. So it does take a long time.
Are there any songs that you look back on and you're like, ooh, I wish I could just tweak this and poke that and just around with it?
I do that a lot with all of my music, which is so bad of me. I need to start just enjoying it and being like, it's out. It just let it go. Like the first week that I was listening to the album, I was like, oh, that vocal could have been higher, or oh, that synth sounds too high, or oh, those harmonies need to come up. I'm always doing it. It's actually very annoying. It's like ruining it for me. So I have this new rule of myself that like when I'm listening to music that I can't write notes, and that if I start mentally doing that, to turn it off, because I need to train myself not to do that. I need to bring back the love of just enjoying music and listening to it and stop picking myself apart.
You know what? That's... I don't want to make this about me, but when I started doing radio, I'd listen back and I'd hear a word I pronounced wrong, or something I didn't say correctly, or something I thought could be said better, and I'd just be like, I'm just going to nip this out, and it sounds like, hello, this is the show, and it just becomes really patchwork.
Yeah, I've done that too. I've done that with a song where I'm like, I don't really like the way I sing like the second line of the first verse, and then I'll re-sing it, and like you said, it'll be like, do you let me like this? Do you let me like that? And it's like, okay, you can tell that is not one take.
Yeah.
So I just have to let it go sometimes.
Which is cathartic in a way, just letting it into the world and letting it live its life.
Yeah, and you know what? Sometimes people do like the rawer form of things. Like you can hear the grit in it. You can hear the emotion in it. Like there's one song in it where like I got really upset singing it. It was the first time singing it about my ex, and I still wasn't over that relationship, and you can hear that I'm really upset in it. And at the start I was like, oh, we need to do more takes. Like, I don't really like that. Like, that doesn't sound polished, I suppose, is a term I could use. And then I was like, you have to leave a bit of heart in there. You can't just have everything sounding perfect. You know, you have to let a little bit of flaws in there. We're all flawed. So why not leave it into the music a bit?
I also imagine, going back to what you were saying earlier about finding someone you trust and someone who you can be open with, like you do this in front of a producer, and the producer's like, no, leave it. It's as it is. It's brilliant. Yeah,
it is. It's really, you know, when I work with a lot of producers that I rework with, they'll know when they've got the best out of me, and then they'll know when I'm just being like over pedantic about things, and I just want to do take after take after take, and they're like, Lyra, you have it. It's absolutely fine. Like, I've heard you sing 1,000 times. This is the take you have. Whereas I could keep going till the cows come home. Like, I would never be going home. So it is lovely to have that relationship with them.
I'd like to ask a little bit going back in time a little bit, because as we said, you were kind of ethereal and dark and mysterious.
Yeah, for
is
sure.
a very accurate word.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound rude,
No,
but
definitely
as
is.
an artist, you were very mysterious.
Yeah.
And I feel like that created a lot of interest. And I wondered, what were some of the, because people didn't know about you, what were some of the weirdest things you read about yourself?
A lot of people, you say that, it's so funny, that when they saw me like online and stuff like that they would think that I was a bit up my own bum and that I was a bit stuck up and that I thought very highly of myself. And then they'd come to a show and they were like, oh, actually, she's just like us. She's just normal. So it was very funny to see what people thought of me via this mysterious onlineness to when they actually came and met me, that it was completely different. So it was always mad that way.
And do you miss being the kind of dark, mysterious Lyra?
I'll always have a dark side to me, forever and a day. Like, you know, the album has tracks on it where like there's a lot of darkness in it, like America, Chess,
Yeah, America.
Drink Me Up, you know, even Love Me, the ballad, brings the dark elements that I will always and forever have dark tones in my voice and in my production because that's what I love. And, you know, I will definitely do more with, you know, the harmonies and the whimsicalness. And, you know, I did touch on it in the album in Loved by You. I feel like it did have a real softer side to me, which was like before, which I really enjoyed writing. Actually, that song took like no time to write, which was lovely. But I just feel like right now I'm at a point in my life where I developed so much that the songs that I'm singing, they just need to have a bit more grit because I've been through a lot more heartbreak and turmoil and down in the dumps that I just need to get these songs to sound a bit more like badass, if you don't mind me saying.
Oh, absolutely. You can say anything you like. So what is the rest of 2024 like for you? More tours, more festivals this year? What can you tell us?
Yeah, more tours, more festivals. I'm still going to be writing. Like, I have a lot of ideas that are just here in my mind because I'm having such a journey at the moment. So a lot of writing and a lot of shows. Like, the album is just out, so I want to try and perform her for as many people as I can because they're so much fun to sing and it's so much fun for me as well. And I'm presuming it's so much fun for the audience because they're singing them back already, which is a shocker. So that's great.
Yeah, that's something you told me before we started, which I was going to ask about as well. What's it like when, as you said, you have this thing and it's yours and then it's out into the world and then you see people singing your songs back to you? That must be quite cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. You know, I always see a lot of people singing like the likes of like Falling or You or Lovers or like My Track Mother or Emerald. A lot of people sing those with me, which is fantastic. But I suppose last night was my first time that I got to get up on stage after the album had been out. And like, the album hasn't been out that long and every word they knew to all the new songs. Like, there's one all over now and I don't know why, but the first pre-chorus, I keep forgetting the lyrics. And it's like I've mentally blocked myself against this song. And I was there and I literally was just looking at the audience and they were mouthing the words to me. So I got the words straight away because it was like a teleprompter from the audience. It was so amazing. And it's just lovely to see that people take that much interest in your music. It kind of gives you a pat on the back and be like, right, you're going the right way. Keep going. Just keep fighting on.
It puts all the demons to rest, I imagine.
Yeah, it does. And it just means the world to me that people are listening to my music. You know, that's what it's there for. So the fact that they are it melts my heart. It gets me every time.
Thank you so much for your time today. It was so fun to sit and talk to you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck with the album.
Thanks.
Good luck with the rest of 2024. Hopefully our paths will cross again soon.
I'm sure they will. Thank you for the chat.